Hello and welcome to another episode of the CollabTalk Podcast, the show dedicated to exploring how and why we collaborate. Love digging into the people, the process, the technology around collaboration. And my returning guest today is a software engineer, author, speaker, fellow Microsoft MVP, and the host of the popular C# Corner podcast, David McCarter.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Glad to be back. Nice to see you again.
Great to have you back. I think it was it April last year? It's almost been a year. Yeah. Well, I know that I'm excited to dig into this topic. As we were talking before, we've been chatting here for a while. It's always fun as you're preparing for it. And you're like, wait, we should talk about this again when we hit record. Yeah. But we're talking today about automation anxiety, what AI really means for our jobs. And I wrote a blog post, kind of what started the conversation going. There was a statement made by the Microsoft AI CEO that we're going to get into. So there's lots to go through. But let's start, David, by talking about like how you're leveraging AI today.
Yeah. So, my journey with AI really started over, I guess, at least a couple of years ago, and, being a book author like yourself and tech books really don't sell very well. So,
it's the most amount of, I always say that, David, it's the most amount of work you can do for the least amount of money. It's awesome.
I probably get pennies an hour, doing that. But, when I started using it, so because of that, I've pretty much gone self-publishing for a long time now, because I don't like working with publishing companies because they rip us off even more than anything. And to me, I relate them to record companies for musicians, same thing. And so I pretty much only self-publish now. And the last time I think I wrote for a publishing house was 2012. And but the problem with that is I'm a software engineer, and I admittedly, am not the greatest at English. I have dyslexia, I have attention deficit, whatever. And so, in all my books in the past, I've always put an apology in the introduction going, I'm a software engineer, just like you. I can't spell just like you. So if you find anything in the book, please let me know so I can fix it in the next edition. So I've never been able to pay for an editor. Like my brother writes fiction novels and he pays, per page for an actual editor. I don't know if he does it now, but he did that in the past. But now, I really started getting the AI to help me edit my books. I don't use AI to write anything, right? It just helps me edit the book, make it sound better. We were talking before that suggests better titles and headings. So ever since then, I've been using AI pretty much every day just for that, because I do a lot of writing now that I don't code as much anymore. And then sometime after that, I think when Firefly first came out from Adobe, that's when I started getting into doing images. I've always been what I call a closeted graphic artist. I've loved doing graphic artists my whole life. I've never been one. So, but all the graphics you see, on my website and in my presentations at conferences and everything, I do all of them myself, right? I started out using like stock images from Adobe and, manipulating them with Photoshop. And even doing backing videos, for a template. But now, 100% of the images you see in my book, in my presentations, in my articles, basically, I do all with AI now. I hardly touch, Photoshop anymore. I don't remember the last time I went to the stock webpage for Adobe to get a stock image.
Well, see, I still do. I use a couple sites when I'm doing client work and when I need to make sure that the images that I hand off as part of a package, a content package, is fully licensed, so they can print, they can do whatever without worrying about AI of having borrowed some aspect of the image.
So I pretty much create AI images every day now. every day I write, which is almost every day, I use AI for that. I'm trying to use it for code. We can talk about that later, but it's been really frustrating with code. I do use it, but I don't know if it's helping saving time right now because I have to do so much checking of the code because it doesn't write good code. It can't even write good documentation that is XML document compliant all the time.
Right.
And
I
so
I love it primarily for, it's great at summarizing.
mm, it does
It's
really good at that. Yeah.
even then, I mean, it has certain patterns, certain
Mm,
biases, the way that it kind of works, and even in its summaries, you can see, okay, this is a Chat GPT, this is a Gemini, just
mhm,
has kind of different, I don't know, speech patterns to kind of their generic results around things like that. But as an idea generation capability, I mean, that's, I think, what I use besides image generation.
mhm.
I use it for editing of, I mean, it's I mean, Grammarly's been around for a long time,
Yeah.
but this kind of goes to the next step where it's
Mhm,
finding the typos, finding the spelling errors, but also comes back with contextual, structural recommendations. I love
mhm.
asking it, don't make changes, don't just create something, but prompt me on what you see and
Yes.
let me decide whether I want to fix it, replace it. Um, but
I do a
yeah,
lot of that for my books. I'll give it like a whole chapter, or I was talking to you before. I even give it my whole book, in a Word document, and I say, okay, does all these chapters flow together in the correct way? And it gives me suggestions, and like you were talking, I use it to come up with better chapter titles to be more engaging and get people's attention, right? I've even started recently because I'm an award-winning photographer. I sell my photography and now my AI graphics online, and I was wondering why I'm not seeing any of my stuff come up in like Google searches.
mhm,
And I asked AI why. And it said, well, you should fill out this and that, and we should change the titles of these things because it's not very descriptive. And so I've been spending a lot of time reorganizing, retitling, re-metadata my entire photography site and graphic art site. So yeah, it does a really good job at things like that because it can actually, even with my graphic, I mean, my photography site, it can look at the images and say, oh
right,
yeah, okay,
yeah.
let's reorganize this a better way and things like that. So
Well, I had an experience with my first science fiction novel, which published, Circuit Dominion back in October, and where I had, similar to you, I had it, I was using Copilot because I wanted to make sure that it's not just going out there and training the internet on my
mhm.
unique story. But I was trying to get insights into character development within the book, and so it
Yeah.
had the entire book. I was looking at it, section. It's broken up into thirds, and I was looking, specifically where this experience happened was in the third section of the book, um, and about 12, 14 chapters in this section. But I was asking it about character arcs
Mhm.
and asking it like, can you see any inconsistencies
Yeah.
in major and minor characters and things? And there was, and it came back with a suggestion which caught me off guard. And
Hmm.
this is something that a human editor might find the kind of
Sure.
context, the kind of insight into it.
Right.
But in it, there's a major character, this one main robot, one of the main character, and two lesser human leaders that have high distrust of all mechs, all robots.
Hmm.
And it said, well, in chapter 25, that they're interacting directly together and they have low trust. And two or three chapters later, it says they seem to be more comfortable with the main character,
Hmm.
Caleb. Um, but there's nothing that happens in between to explain why
Hmm.
they would have
Mhm.
higher trust. And I'm like, wow. No,
Yeah.
now they were in a battle, they were underground, they were in tunnels doing something and working together. I just said, I mean, my mind writing this was just that they're working together. They successfully do this, this activity. They escape together. They all survive. That somehow they had kind of, bonded a little bit or higher trust out of that. No. So and I did ask, I'm like, any suggestions and it came back and it said it was the generic AI help when you're, like you're going in, you're asking for help to build something in Excel and Copilot tells you, here's how you go and do it. It's like, no. I want you to do it. Do the
Yeah.
thing. I
Yeah.
like you're walking me through the steps of what I should then go and do. Less helpful. I want you to actually do it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it kind of gave me a similar answer. It
Hmm.
didn't go and write it. So I found a place where something as innocuous as, well, yeah, it's not innocuous, but they were in the tunnel together and there was an explosion and the tunnel partially collapsed and they all kind of jumped out of the way. So instead of them jumping out of the way, I had this robot grab the humans from behind and yank them out of the way when
Hmm.
the roof collapsed. They look and acknowledge each other. That's it. That was the
Yeah.
only change, but that was substantial enough
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
that connection, to make it make more sense later down. So again, I share all this because you can see how nuanced that is. The
Hmm.
fact that it picked up on that nuance and made a suggestion, go like, hey, it didn't do it for me, not yet. It's not that kind of editor. I wasn't asking it to do it for me. I was asking it to identify places where I could strengthen,
Hmm.
these different ties. That I don't know what I was looking for. Other than, did I mention some minor characters and never mention them again? And why do I even bring them up? Be like,
Hmm.
when you write fiction, sometimes you do that where like I may have been going somewhere with this minor character and then it went nowhere. I should probably just consolidate characters or do away with all those additional character names because I'm not fully developing them. Things like that.
Yeah.
For it to come back and make those kinds of observations was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Even a couple weeks ago, because I got tired of I got tired about writing tech stuff, and I've been writing tech books since the mid '90s, right? And so
Yep.
I'm pretty good at that, right? But I've only released one non-tech book, and that was about photography, photography I do for bands. But there's another book I've been working on very, very not very often about for over a decade now about a book. It's a non-tech book, but it's a tech book. It's a book to explain to normal people how software engineering works. And I think we were talking about this last time, maybe explain why so many apps suck these days, right? And there's so many problems with apps, Visual Studio 2026. And and why is it like this? And I kind of want to explain it in a way, that it's geared for normal people, right? Not me or you, right? And but it is kind of geared for people in the tech industry that aren't like necessarily me and you, like the managers and the project managers. I think we'll get something out of this too. But the reason I've barely worked on it in over 10 years is that it's a fiction kind of book, right? And I'm having a hard time putting together the characters and their motivations and things like that. And so a couple of weeks ago, I go, well, maybe I should try to resurrect this. But I'm really having a hard time following the thing myself, the characters, right?
Mhm.
And so I went to AI and I said, hey, because like I said, my brother's a fiction writer. He knows how to do this. And but I said, hey, what is that thing called that authors use to keep track of what the character's doing and when they're doing it and all that kind of stuff. And it helped me out. And then I said, hey, can you take what I've written already and come up with like a user story thing, right? I forget what it's called in fiction world, but like a user story for all the characters, right? And it did. And so now I'm using that, I need to print it out and paste it on my wall, but now I'm using that to keep track of the characters and their purposes and their names, because there's quite a few characters and things like that. And so it's even helping me do that. It's still going to be really long and hard for me to get this out, but at least AI is really kind of helping me organize it.
Well, that's part of what I love about this. I don't know about that specific tool. I mean, as you talk about that, it just makes me think of back in the, the whole UML era, actors and the scenarios and kind of all the building that way. The components that then go on to build more complex code. I kind of took, hearing her talk about it, reading a bit about how, what's her name, Harry Potter author, how she kind of outlined in Excel just a spreadsheet of the characters and the books, and she had actually outlined all 7 books up front and the characters along them. So major and minor, she knew like what would happen, the arcs for each one of those, had it all outlined before she started writing. And I just thought that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I had the genesis of the idea. I went back in and did something similar where I started mapping it out, and it really helped me to figure it out. And then I went in with what I'd already written and I rewrote portions of it. I leveraged AI to help me refactor some of that. So, okay, I'm going to move these things around the timeline. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change these relationships. Help me identify where in my current draft of the first section that I need to go and change because of this, of this restructuring. And it was able to help me there. But I mean, this is all, this is fascinating. We could probably talk for an hour just on the authoring process. The other thing that kind of sparked like you and I talking was around this article. I wrote a blog post last week. I saw the article, a quote that was out of the Financial Times, the quote from the CEO of Microsoft AI, Mustafa Suleyman, where he was making some predictions about AI, and he made a statement that was pretty incredible, that white collar work is on the precipice of a radical transformation thanks to AI, and he gave it a timeline of 18 months until MBA graduates and law school graduates and a lot of and many of their less credentialed peers are going to be out of jobs.
Yeah.
And I don't think 18 months, but I mean, how realistic? But that statement, I mean, how realistic is it? Is it misleading? Is it directionally correct, but dramatically overstated?
I would say the last 2 things you said, it is correct, but it's way overstated. Number one, I don't think that could possibly happen in 18 months, right? Even though AI is moving at a very fast pace, I don't I don't think that is even possible.
Adoption rates are nowhere near that in
and
corporate environments, but yeah.
Right. And so to get rid of all the white collar work, because that's the other problem I have with this statement, not only the timeline, but it says all work. It's like Musk saying that we're all going to never have to work again, and crazy stuff like that. And so I was thinking about that, and actually was working on an image to kind of display my thought about AI, especially with coding, right? Because we're white collar workers, right? Coders are white collar workers. So, and last year, my daughter-in-law said, yeah, all you are going to be out of job soon. And I'm going, I don't know who you're talking to, but that's not true. And so it got me thinking about, software engineering and what is really our job. So first, let me state that, my feeling of my job always has been, I'm here to improve somebody's workflow, right? Whether it's at work or at home or medical device stuff I've worked on, I'm here to improve somebody's life somehow, right? That's my only job, being a software engineer, right? It's not the coding. It's not any of that. It's designing something from nothing to solve a problem, right? And so if you think of it in that way, at least in the way I think of software engineering, um, when you think about AI and AI writing code and writing entire applications, maybe someday, I don't think that can happen right now, but maybe someday. But so what is our job, right? And I've said this on social media and even probably in my books or articles is our job isn't writing code, right?
Yeah.
I think I posted one of my memes today that said, if you're coding all day, you're doing it wrong, right? So the way I look at code, right, is code is just a tool, for software engineers to take their idea and make the computer do it, right? That's all it is. I relate that to like an artist, an artist that paints pictures, right? The paint is what makes it come to life, and the brushes are the tool. The paint and the brushes are the tool, so an artist can make something from nothing to display what they're imagining, right?
Yeah.
So to me, code is the same way. I want AI to write more code. I don't want to write code all the time. Our job is not to be coders, right? Our job is to solve a problem,
Right.
right, with the computer.
Yeah.
So this to me is how I look at AI, is how it's the tools that are changing, not really what we're doing. Now, are we going to need as many software engineers to bang out code in the future? No, not at all. But we're still going to need the people with the imagination and the know-how to put this together and get the computer to do what you want it to do, regardless of what that underlying tool is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So to put it in another perspective, since we have, we've both been in tech for a long time. Again, I think my first technical book started writing that in '98.
Yeah, I was 97, I think.
Yeah. So they're at the end of the '90s there for a while, but we've been through this cycle a few times of new technologies. When the really the launch and the growth of the internet and moving up, and there's a lot of things in between. And I'd say like moving from the server to the to the grid and then to the cloud model. I think the cloud move is probably the biggest thing, but I think in terms of like SharePoint, SharePoint MVP for 15 years now, was that starting out, everybody was focused on keeping the servers up and running. And so the discussions were largely technical, administrative, developers and admins talking nuts and bolts of keeping servers up and running. What happened as things matured and we moved to the cloud is that instead of managing servers, we were managing services. So again, there were not that jobs went away. There are still people that are running hardware. You still need to do that. There's still people that work in data centers, though not as many, but it's exploded around the people using and managing services.
Yes.
And similarly, moving away, the less that we have to manage the services because they're getting smarter, or we can use natural language to communicate with various services, there's going to be less of a need for the people that know the one-off. There's still going to be that need. There's going to be, people in every enterprise organization that understand, the how these different services work and the technologies and hardware and kind of all those different pieces, all still relevant, but just not as many of them. And then we'll have something new, people who are experts in helping organizations. And in fact, I've even called it, I think it's like the age of the business analyst is going to explode.
Yeah.
People that better understand what the business needs and can translate that into, prompts, into agents, into whatever that is, to get us more rapidly to the output, the results that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Whether
And
you know
we'll
how
be
to
using
code or
AI
not.
to do that too,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it is, so I think there will be a longer transition. I don't think it's 18 months.
No.
But anything close to that.
Mm-mm.
But I
No.
do think, there are genuine white collar tasks that are at risk in the near term. So you
Sure.
think about, like we were just talking about, drafting a lot of research and analysis and coding. Someone was just sharing with me late last week that they have somebody that they work with that has been hired on for like $150, $200 an hour, helping with RFPs, filing, for getting money from the federal and state and local government entities for different projects and different things, whatever. But anyway, so they were specialized
Mhm.
and so made really good money, annual salary off of this. And they saw a new job open up and they were offering $25 an hour for
Mm.
exactly what she had been doing for years, making $150, $200 an hour. She's like, "Are you kidding?" She says, "Oh yeah, we are overflowing with
Yeah.
people who have been doing it like yourself for years and years and years. But now because they're leveraging AI,
Yeah.
price of is dropping down. It's become easier for somebody who doesn't know a lot about it to come in and figure things out and do it, and so they pay a lot less for it."
Yeah. That's true. And the other thing that is already happening, because I have firsthand knowledge of this, I won't say who it is because they'll get mad at me, but uh, the other thing which I saw before, but now I know it's actually happening, and that is, it kind of reminds me of, the internet boom days, and then um, the cloud boom days, right?
Mhm.
Where this new technology comes around, everybody goes, "Oh, we have to adopt it now. We have to use it for everything, and it's going to solve all our problems." And go, 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 right? Without stopping and thinking, right? And so I, like I said, I know firsthand of a company. They're an online retailer, and they have drank the Kool-Aid, right?
Mhm.
And they are now, their software engineers are basically uh, just fixing the problems so what they're doing now is they're generating all the code for their stuff through AI,
Uh,
which I think is one heck of a huge mistake. Like I
yeah,
said, somebody drank the Kool-Aid, and now the software engineers who are left are suffering with this,
yeah,
right? And suffering with this problem because now the software doesn't work. The users, the users trying to buy stuff off their site are pissed off. And I'm going, wait, wait, wait. That's, you guys, you have to stop doing that, right? It's not there. We're not there yet. I don't know who told you we were, but I have yet to see any AI model spit out perfect code, right?
yeah.
Especially when it comes to standards and optimizations and things like that. Um, it's terrible, let me tell you. And I've been trying all the different models in Copilot, and they all are not good, right, at this point.
You,
And
David, back in my project management days and building PMOs and project and portfolio management technologies, I would run into this all the time where I would find teams that were spending all their time on managing the tools rather than doing the actual project management out there
right,
doing it, because it just was so time consuming.
yeah,
And that's some of the danger that I see. Like, are there benefits? Is it moving the directions? Like, yeah, but so much. Um, it still takes a lot of effort to get to that. Like, what are what benefits are we seeing from a lot of these automation efforts where the efforts still require distinctly human judgment, taste, insights, contextual understanding
right,
of what's happening,
right. I
and what time is actually being saved, what dollars are actually being saved.
Yeah, yeah, and I created a meme last year. It's kind of a long one. I can't say the whole thing, but it basically says, and here's my feeling about Copilot, no matter what model you're using with it. Um, Copilot is book smart. So it knows a lot of stuff, but it doesn't have any experience. And I think you mentioned that in one of your recent articles. It doesn't have the experience. So
The
that's why
street
it
smart.
writes
Right.
crappy, huh?
It doesn't have the street smarts.
Right. It doesn't
Just
have
the
the
book
street
smart.
smart. It doesn't have the
Yeah.
experience. So that's why it keeps writing crappy stuff. Even when I tell it you're doing it wrong, it still keeps doing it. Right. And so I in that meme, I say, Copilot is a junior developer, right? They know a lot of stuff because they just got out of school, but they don't really know how to do it. Right. And that's to me the feeling of Copilot writing code at this point is that, right? It's a junior programmer. I have to spend so much time fixing what it spits out. Sometimes I'm not sure it's worth it.
Yeah.
Right. And I keep trying. I keep trying to fix it. I even made a meme, I think this morning or yesterday, that said, at this point, Microsoft should be paying me to use Copilot, because I'm trying to train it to do things the right way. And that's actually a missed opportunity. I think, if Microsoft listens to this, you need to hire veteran software engineers like myself to help you train your stuff, because I'm not sure what's happening, but it's not working at this point.
What's interesting, just an observation of there's a difficult period of growth
Mhm.
for a manager, for a business that's kind of the same thing. I'll just put it kind of the manager level where you find that, okay, I've hired this person, but I'm having a difficult time of letting go of certain things,
Mhm.
giving them to the assistant because I know they're not going to do it the way that I need it done or want it
Mhm.
done, need it done. And it would take more time
Mhm.
to explain to them how to do it rather than I could just do it myself quicker than it
Yeah.
would be to explain it and walk you through it and train you on it, even though long term there's benefit in handing that off, but there's still
Sure.
ramp up time, about. And so that is it's something that holds leaders back from letting go and delegating.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's something that impacts very real, like small organizations from growing,
Right.
where you can't do that. And in some ways, I can see that here. And it's great that we're technologists at heart. We love going experimenting with new technology and trying things. But it also helps us better understand where this technology actually is. So it's
Right.
not that I don't feel like I'm holding back. I'm trying not to delegate. I would love to delegate more of it, more than I can now,
Mhm.
over to it. It's just when I get in and try, I have more failed than successful
Hmm.
trials of
Yeah.
different tools and things. I'm constantly signing up. I'm doing the free versions of things and trialing things like, does this meet the promise? I can see the vision, and very quickly by kicking those tires realize it can't actually do what I needed to do. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't live up to the promise
Yeah.
of their marketing.
Right. And sometimes you just have to give up. It's hard for me to do that, but sometimes I go, yeah, this isn't working out. I've got to stop and try something else, do it myself, or try some other way, or maybe I'm asking the questions in the wrong way or something, right? I'm going down a bad road and I need to stop it because I'm just going to I'm just going to make myself upset about something.
But this is the major difference between, I think, from what Suleiman is saying, and the reality is it's a difference between automating tasks, automating more and more,
Sure.
and eliminating actual positions. I
Right.
think that we are far from eliminating, and more realistic is that we are streamlining things. So will we in 2 to 5 years need a lot more people in these white collar roles? I say, "Oh yeah,
Mm.
definitely that." How are we eliminating them altogether? No.
Well,
Um,
someone's got to manage it, right? You
you still
just
need a
can't get
human judgment, and then
right.
there's the management as well, the
Right.
oversight. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A human still has to look at it at this point. I mean, and we're talking about nowadays, right? Right now, right? Because in the future, it's going to get a lot better. Like, I've seen, episodes of Picard or something like that where he walks up to the holodeck and he says, I want to be in a bar that's playing jazz and drinks and cigars or whatever he's saying, and boop, 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 boop. It writes the program to do this in the holodeck and then implements it, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely see that happening someday, right? But I don't think I'm going to be around when that happens, but I definitely can see it happening. But we're so far from that, to me, in reality, that we could just do things like, if back in I think Agile killed a lot of documentation and planning and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, back in the day, before we even wrote a line of code, right, we'd sit down and write design documents. Well, feature documents first, and then we'd write design documents and whatever other UML diagrams, like you were talking about. So someday, I definitely see where we can take those documents, right, spit them into the AI, and it will create the program, right?
Yeah.
And I even was talking to Mads Torgerson. We have coffee chats every quarter, and the architect of C#, and I told him, I can see, I don't know if he understood what I was saying, but I can see that even the programming languages will radically change, because when they don't need to be human readable, right, why do it that way? There's probably a much better, faster way to do it that only the AI can understand, right? So I can see that happening too, is those kind of things, like we won't even be using languages in the future. Right.
This is where I again, I sold my company, assets for my company. We sold to Rational Software just before Rational was acquired by IBM. Like a person I would love to discuss and nerd out with is like a Grady Booch, to go through and talk about that vision.
I've nerded out with him twice. He's a really awesome guy to hang around.
He is an awesome guy. I know. I've seen him speak at conferences and things, but closest I got though was in a line of people waiting to get his autograph in a book. So at one of the conferences, but I'd love to talk to him about like this again, the vision that they had in the late 90s of utilizing UML and their rational rows and creating these, that where you have a picture that is a shared diagram that business people, technology people could share together, both understand, yes, these are the actors, here's are the use cases, here are the scenarios as we put them together, go make it happen. Then the vision of it was that it could then generate overly simplified code, but at least get things started.
Right.
As a non-developer, I mean, I've gone in, I've used generative AI to build simple wireframes to translate, into pictures, into diagrams. Like, here is what I want this product to actually do. I would never go and say, okay, it's going to create functional code.
Right.
I'm in awe of those efforts, and I can't wait to be able to take my words without involving a developer, explain what I'm trying to do. And the way that the human brain works too is that we're thinking through and, oh yeah, and it should also do this, refactor. Oh, and it should also do this at this stage, refactor. And it keeps all of our wild ideas, in order logically, and then comes out with a finished product that's an executable that actually runs.
Right.
We're moving that direction. We're nowhere close to that. Well, no. I'd say that we're not. Let's say we're nowhere close to it. I'm not going to speak to things that I don't know about, other projects, but it's not available today.
Right.
But that is so much closer to what I believe was the vision of Rational, of people like Grady, in building out those tools way back when, and that a modeling language, a universal notation for sharing of those ideas, we're getting much closer to being able to live in that world. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I had an idea one time for an Outlook extension, And as I was researching it and wireframing it and building it out, and I realized, okay, this isn't the idea that I thought it was, because AI was coming back with the research and explaining why this wouldn't work. Yeah, which was, okay, well, answer the question. Then it wasn't an itch in the back of my mind, like, hey, I've got to go create this product. I did the field work and realized here's the problems with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was great too. But yeah, I wouldn't want it to then just take it and run with it and build something which would ultimately be a waste of time. It actually helps steer me right.
Yeah. And I think I've used AI to ask questions about like conference session thoughts I had, about it. Do you think this would be widely acceptable, or why and why not? Things like that. Actually, speaking of software engineering, long time ago when because I have an active imagination, that's why I've been an artist since grade school. I actually won my first book award in 5th grade or sixth grade. It won I wrote a book in special art class, and it won a prize at the county fair or something like that. And so I've always had a really, I always try to think what's going to be in the future. And I actually thought we'd be further along now than we are. I thought a long time ago that around this time we'd be more of a plug and play model, where we'd be doing very little coding, just configuring, right? And a lot of the no code, low code, solutions, even for Microsoft are kind of like that, but it's not as far as I thought it would be.
It was something in the early 2000s. We talked a lot about that. Yeah. I mean, it was like, I always refer to it. It's like, we had this idea, this service bus model where and this is where we were using, UML was trying to do something like that, but you were, using, like common language, plug into it. If everybody communicated with this again, service bus model, it would, if everybody could connect with it one way, it would understand how to translate between each of those pieces and send the right signal to these other systems. So you could have completely disparate systems that don't talk to each other, but by plugging into this universal service bus, it would do the translation services for you.
Yeah.
And push it back out there. Again, that's stuff we were working on back in 2001.
Yeah. So yeah, it's, I kind of, part of me kind of wishes I was born later so I could ride this AI train a little bit more, because I'm getting older. I'm not coding as much.
We're talking about still time for you, David, and you don't need to be coding as much, but yeah.
I know, but I grew up in the day of the Jetsons and, stuff like that. And, seeing what could be possible if you flying cars, which we still don't have. Right. And things like that. I thought we'd be further along, but AI's, and I know I bash AI a lot, especially Copilot, because it's so it's useful, but really hard to deal with at this point. But AI to me is going to do fantastic things in the future, right? Well, it's already doing it, and a lot of the big, growth areas I see at least are like the medical industry. I think that's going to be really powerful once they get that working. I know they're already doing it, but once that gets even more powerful, treating diseases and detecting diseases before they even crop up and things like that.
Even more powerful WebMD.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite movies, especially because of the political climate, is Idiocracy.
Yeah.
Love that movie. I just recently watched it. Netflix didn't have it, and then they did, and then they were going to get rid of it, so I watched it. And so, there's this one scene earlier on in the movie where, he's still trying to figure out where he is, what time, he woke up in, and he goes to some place where he has to get medically checked, and he just stands at where the receptionist is. They scan his body and they know everything wrong with him, or whatever, just by scanning his body while he's standing at reception, right? That's what I want to see with doctors, because doctors these days are even getting bad too. And so
Yeah.
those are the kind of really cool things I think we're going to see, hopefully in my lifetime, because I want to see it. But, definitely some things we're going to see that. So, I'll bash AI because of what I see it not doing. I wish it would work better. But, the future implications of AI is people are warning it's going to be in all of our life, everywhere. And yeah, that's going to happen. You can't stop progress, right? It's going to happen. You couldn't stop the industrial revolution. You couldn't stop the internet revolution, right? And I'm not saying we did it all correctly. We definitely didn't, especially the internet. But we're going to get there.
Well, that's why I think. AI. I mean, my advice for companies, so I spend a lot of my time now these days, constantly doing customer trainings. In fact, I've got 2 I'm concluding this month. I've got 2 new clients that start up later this month and through March and into April, that all want kind of fundamentals of AI and Copilot and kind of all those different things. And one of the things that the recommendation I make is like, you need to be experimenting. It doesn't mean that all the tools, all the things that are launched, they'll be right. It doesn't mean the things that you're going to build are going to last for or even 3 to 5 years, that usual technology adoption cycle of something before it kind of grows old and gets replaced by something. Not everything has got what you crave. They don't all have electrolytes. There's my there's my reference. I know it's true. They don't all have what we crave. But that Brian,
I guess my big message is just be smart about it. Don't just adopt something because you went to a conference and they said it's going to solve all your issues. Because I've seen this. I mean, you and I have seen this over.
But it also means don't try it. I think you've got to. That's my point. Is that you do need to experiment, and learn from those things. Understand how they work. I think that more of it is throwaway than it was in the past, because technology is changing so quickly. But I feel like if you're not in there playing with things now, and as the new stuff comes out, it's going to be more difficult to jump between versions.
Oh yes, definitely.
So so get in there and be playing with it, and you'll. I mean, this has long been kind of the secret for organizations across whatever industry it is organizations that are more able to adapt and change. So their change management, their ability to go in there, recognize change is happening, and then make the change. Those organizations are the ones that are going to dominate.
Oh yeah.
Over those that struggle with every little thing.
Yeah, that reminds me of this. One of the last big contracts I had. We're the company was basically working on this engine. The first country they were rolling it out to was India. They were going to have like 40,000 doctors and nurses, using this engine.
And doctors and nurses without lawyers as well being involved somewhere. But yes, yeah.
But the engine basically was okay. A patient comes in with these symptoms, you plug them in, and then it spits out everything you've got to do, all the tests, all the examinations you have to do, all the tests you have to do, all that stuff, which kind of alleviates the doctors from a lot of work, because now the nurses or nurse practitioners can do it, right? So but they custom built this engine themselves, and which is not a bad thing. But the bad thing that I heard when I was talking to my manager was, one day I was sitting there talking to him, and he goes, are you guys looking into AI? Because to me, AI is basically that's what they should be using, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is AI, because they're custom building this. But AI can do such a better job. And I asked him a question, are you looking into AI? And he said, no. And I sat there in my head going, why? What are you doing? You're going to be rolled over by somebody who is going to use AI.
Yeah.
Right. Because they can not only deliver something better, but faster.
Yeah.
Right. Than what you're trying to do. By custom doing these templates.
So two of my kids are in data science roles. And I asked both of them, are you guys talking about internally AI? And it's like, oh yeah. So we use it for some things. And my daughter's in the healthcare space in data science, and she's a director of data science, or I don't know what the specific title is. I don't know. It just makes me think of when my kids would ask me, "It's like, what do you do, Dad?" It's like, I don't know. He does something with computers. That's what Dad is,
He types on the keyboard all day.
But it's great to hear that she's like, both of them, my son are both. Oh yeah, it's coming up, because the ability to go in where they used to go and build dashboards and pull insights out of it, they're using it more and more for insights. And again, they need to build trust around some of the outputs, but it provides very rapid looks at complex data and points them down directions that otherwise they don't have to go spend all that time building out those complex dashboards to get the same or similar type insights. It's directionally, points them where they should go and spend more of their time. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. Again, I think as we look back at the role over the next 18 months, the jobs that were being lost, I think, are a lot of these large, especially in tech, companies that overhired or did acquisitions and didn't purge. And so they're adjusting. I don't think we're truly seeing cuts across the board because of AI. I think that they're using that as an excuse right now to kind of right set, what they did over the last 5 years, really during COVID, overhiring and things. But I do think that there will be an adjustment.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to take a while, but one thing you kind of remind me of with that statement is using it for complex things, right? And especially complex things you might not be great at, right? So, I just released my new code performance book at the beginning of the year. I don't have a copy to show because it's late from Amazon. I don't know why it's taking so dang long, but so my computer basically was running benchmark tests for 9 straight months, right? And in the past versions of my book and my articles and everything, I basically have to look at 2 different spreadsheets, to try to figure out which is better, has it slowed down, has it got faster, how many allocations, did the allocations change a lot, stuff like that. So when I was working towards the end of my code performance book last year, I was going, well, I have this data. I even have this data in JSON format, right? Because it seems like ChatGPT doesn't like Excel spreadsheets very much. And it actually told me it likes JSON better. And so I developed a prompt basically that, I take, like when I released my book, I was comparing a lot of stuff between, the performance and the allocations in .NET 8 and 9 and compared to .NET 10, right? And like I said, that's a really long process for me to do manually, right? But I created this prompt that basically says, can you look at this, the .NET 10 version of this and the .NET 8 version of this, right? Go through all the methods, use fuzzy logic for the method names because I might have changed them to make them more understandable to myself. And then tell me any of the means, values have changed plus or minus 5% or more. And any of the allocations, same thing, plus or minus 5%. And it takes a little bit to do it. I would say sometimes 5 minutes or more sometimes to analyze the data, but then it spits out exactly what I want. right? It tells me the methods has slowed down either because of the mean or the allocations have changed. And that allows me to rapidly, make recommendations in my book and my articles, as opposed to me doing it the long way, which just took a lot of time and quite frankly is not very fun, right?
Yeah.
And now I just have AI do it. I have the prompt, I have it saved, so I can use it anytime I want. And it really, really helps me with things like that. So analyzing, you're talking about, data analytics and things like that. And that is another big thing, I think, for AI, because I'm already doing it, right?
Yeah.
With the benchmark data.
Yeah, no, those kinds of things out there. I mean, I just think, again, with my marketing hat on, of competitive analysis, running agents that are running out there that are notifying me when, maybe it's running daily, or, whatever the activity is. I know a lot of us were, 2 years ago, I was prompting, at least on a weekly basis, to go and look through chats and emails and conversations, like, tell me, what happened in the last week that I need to be aware of, summarize all these things, like that kind of comment, to automating to where it is alerting you in not quite real time. It's still running, it's making a call. It's going through the info, but it's running autonomously and providing me back where only if there is information results there that are worth looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cool things that are out there, but again, I go back to, like, you just need to experiment.
Yeah.
There's I don't think there's a day that goes by where I'm not reading through Twitter or LinkedIn or one of the user boards that I go in and review on a regular basis, a couple times a week, and what are the conversations around there, where I don't see some other tool or some other app, or somebody has a video where they've built something and automated something I want to walk through. Every day there's looking at those kinds of things. And so there's so much that's happening, which, again, I don't know. I don't know what will happen with all the jobs in 18 months. I just think that it's going to be more of there'll be a shift in knowledge work, but it will still look familiar to what we're doing today.
Right.
It'll just be smarter. It'll be faster.
It'll be hopefully faster and hopefully better, right?
And hopefully better. Yep.
Well, I hardly use, search engine anymore, right?
Right.
Yeah. I've never liked search engines because it just takes too much of my time to figure out what I'm looking for.
Yep.
And, now with AI, I use it to look for pictures I'm trying to find, or articles I'm trying to find.
It has changed the way that we're using and interacting with data that's out there, which is another reason why, folks, if you've not already gone in and looked at that, there's, everybody's familiar with search engine optimization for your content, for your website, and things that are out there. There are some key differences in creating content and sites, your landing pages, all your marketing and sales and marketing data and things that are out there that are optimized for AI. So something to look into as well.
Yeah.
But, David, I know that there's a lot we go through. Really appreciate your time on this. We'll have to have you back not so long. We'll do something, maybe in December this fall. Is go through and talk about. Well, I mean, this is an important enough. I mean, we could probably tackle this exact topic every 6 months and have stuff to talk about what's happening.
Every couple months, probably, because AI is changing so much. But before I go, I want to mention again, I have a brand new code performance out for a book for Microsoft.net. It's my biggest code performance book, and there's a lot of great information in there. And there's been huge improvements with .NET 10 as far as performance. I'm really, really, pleased in what the team has been doing when it comes around performance and allocations in .NET. They've done dramatically. I mean, someday I might not even have to do my book, right? And but I still do, there's still 5 ways of doing the same thing in .NET, and some more performant than others. You can really be killing your performance if you don't do the right way. So I hope everybody, listening goes out and sees that. And also at the end of last year, I released you can't see it very well in this stupid thing. I released the 20th anniversary of my coding standards book. It's the only pure coding standards book out there. It's 498 pages, just 2 pages shy of doing a hardbound, because I wanted to do a hardbound along with the paperbound. So please, teams, you need this. I got a tweet last week. Someone replied to my tweet about my book, and he goes, we don't use coding standards. And I go, that's exactly why your team needs my book.
We'll be sure we'll include links to the new book and to that latest version out in the blog, as well as out on YouTube. So Dave, really appreciate your time. It's great talking.
It's great talking to you again.
You've been listening to the CollabTalk Podcast. New episodes are published weekly, and you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and most other podcast platforms. Thanks for listening.